Y'all, pause for a second and really hear this. Christmas 2025 was supposed to be all warmth, curated smiles, matching pajamas, the perfect glossy holiday illusion people love to sell online. But for Claressa Shields, that day allegedly brought something far colder, a silent embarrassment, one that doesn't explode publicly, but seeps in, poisoning everything it touches. Something about this story just doesn't line up. Claressa goes live inside a Louis Vuitton store. Designer walls, luxury bags, confidence on full display, a duffel bag front and center captured in real time. Then comes the detail nobody expected. The receipt appears. Her receipt, her card, her money. No blur, no ambiguity, no room to spin it. And yet, just hours later, that same duffel bag is suddenly framed as a present from Papoose. A present? So why does the paper trail say she paid for it herself? That's the first fracture. Once that fracture forms, the entire narrative starts bleeding through. Hit number 2 follows, a first door video, same day, same vibe, same angle. Papoose is behind the camera, exactly like viewers have seen him filming Remy Ma before. And according to what's being alleged, the moment that clip began circulating quietly, it vanished, gone like someone stepped in, made a call, and tried to erase the evidence before the public could stitch the story together. But the internet never truly erases. And Tasha K is saying she already had the footage, already secured what she calls receipts. And that's the moment this stops being messy relationship gossip and starts feeling far more calculated, a financial triangle. Because this claim isn't just about infidelity, it's about positioning, about access, about keeping someone emotionally invested while the marriage remains untouched. And if you're wondering why money keeps surfacing, tax issues, pawn slips, unpaid balances, understand this: when pressure sets in, affection becomes performance and loyalty gets priced. And the most painful part? If Claressa genuinely believed she was chosen while he was still tied to Remy, then this wasn't love, it was a trap. Now pay attention, because this is where the atmosphere shifts and the language allegedly used starts revealing exactly how they really viewed her.
I need glasses on, Jazz. Hold on for a second. I need a trick. Yeah, I need a trick. I need a trick. Woo! Papoose was out here looking for a trick. And he got one. Yes, beautiful girl, beautiful, gorgeous girl. Y'all ain't gonna tell me Claressa ugly. I'm sorry, she's not. She don't care what 50 Cent got to say. At this point, the way 50 Cent running through women around here, I don't even think he really like women like that, in my opinion. Okay? Accused of doing some of the same things Diddy has been accused of, so I don't care. Everything but the baby oil. Everything's alleged, even my name's alleged. I'm just saying, that's what the baby mamas are saying. The gorgeous one. If she cleans up well. Looking a little bit like Remy Ma.
Christmas 2025 was meant to carry meaning, soft glow, intentional togetherness, a day where who shows up and who doesn't says everything. But for Claressa Shields, Christmas didn't answer questions, it revealed friction. Out in the open, she shared something delicate, almost honest. I spent Christmas alone. No dramatics, no accusations, just a quiet statement that painted solitude, emotional distance paired with physical absence. For a brief moment, that sentence went uncontested. But the internet doesn't accept still images. It traces motion, and timelines crash into each other. On that very same day, while the narrative of isolation was forming, Claressa appeared live inside a Louis Vuitton boutique. Bright showroom lights, luxury displays, high-end bags, and one duffel bag placed deliberately in view. Then came the detail that shifted everything: the receipt, not obscured, posted openly, time-stamped, clear. She bought it herself. That was the first fault line. Only hours later, that same duffel bag reappears, no longer a purchase, but framed as a gift from Papoose. A gift. If it was a gift, why was the receipt hers? That contradiction hung there, unresolved, and when questions hover, people start tugging at loose ends. Later that same day, another video surfaced. Different store, same atmosphere, same energy, same pattern beginning to emerge. The framing told its own story. The camera angle? Classic Papoose, exactly how viewers had seen him filming Remy Ma in older clips. Not an assumption, just visual repetition. And then, just as quickly as the clip surfaced, it disappeared, taken down, gone, not faded by time, not swallowed by the algorithm. According to the store owner, it wasn't random. It followed a phone call that simply said, "Remove it." But by then, the footage had already traveled. It landed somewhere else first, with Tasha K. That's when the story stopped orbiting around a bag and started orbiting around presents. Who was rare and when? That's when the claim crystallized. Papoose, Claressa, and Remy Ma, all in the same city, on the same day, during the same holiday period. Suddenly, it wasn't about they weren't together. The claim shifted to timelines, mirrored details, same clothes, same camera grip, same store layout, and floating explanations invite scrutiny. This is where Tasha K drops the remark that shifts the story from investigative into uneasy territory. Allegedly, she says her intuition tells her the situation never fully stopped. The marriage wasn't broken, it was managed. What the public interpreted as separation was actually compartmentalization. And suddenly, the triangle changes shape. This isn't a love triangle, it's a financial triangle. One person emotionally open, one marriage legally preserved, and one stream of money holding everything in suspension. And that money? That's where the tone turns heavy, because alongside the timeline conflicts, another allegation surfaces, one that forces an even sharper question. Claressa was allegedly shown an $8 million win, a record-shattering deal, a figure that resets futures, stabilizes everything. But it also raises one unavoidable question. If Papoose was allegedly broke, where would that money come from? That's where Tasha K steps in with what she calls documentation. Pawn shop records, jewelry, chains, bracelets, all symbols of wealth, now logged as collateral. According to Remy Ma's own past statements, Papoose wasn't paying bills, wasn't contributing financially, was removed from the home, and was reportedly staying in Claressa's apartment, driving her car, operating on her resources. Even the jewelry moment shifts when you slow it down. A chain presented as a birthday gift, Claressa calling it new, then asking one quiet question, "Where's yours?" Because the chain wasn't new, it was his. That realization doesn't explode, it settles. Part 1 pivots from spectacle to something more personal, more unsettling. When resources change hands without clarity and affection overlaps with reliance, the motive becomes unclear. And the final note? Records. In an older clip, Remy Ma addresses Papoose directly, Willie, not a nickname, which leads to William Will Mackey, and that name opens another door. Public filings, over a decade of unpaid taxes, federal liens, six-figure balances, multiple records, property under strain. Not rumor, documentation. At this point, the story stops reading like celebrity chaos and starts reading like a system under pressure, sustained by quiet money movement, while loud narratives keep the surface distracted. And just before this chapter closes, the footage that triggered it all is confronted head-on.
Report. Because here's the thing, the Christmas thing, we gotta go back to 2025. I'm so sorry about this, y'all. We gotta rewind it back. I gotta do one spin for this. We gotta rewind it back, okay? So the Christmas thing had me bothered. Had a lot of y'all bothered. Claressa spent Christmas alone. She was live in the Louis Vuitton store buying Louis Vuitton bags and a duffel bag. Posted the receipt of the duffel bag online, had Papoose give her a Louis Vuitton box with a duffel bag in it and forgot that she had posted the receipt stating that she bought the duffel bag that he gave her. Then she said, "Hey, can you get this online so people would think you bought me something?" Okay, cool. I'm gonna sit down right here like this. All right, right there. Put the camera up. Let's go. Same way he was holding the camera for Remy Ma that she claims that he was not with on Christmas Day.
The audience now sees the contradiction clearly. They've seen the receipt, caught the framing, witnessed the illusion unfold in real time. But the final note of this part isn't about the illusion, it's about the erasure. That first store video didn't just vanish by chance, it was removed under pressure. And that removal, that's the moment that locks this chapter into place, cementing the tension, the stakes, and the story no one can easily ignore.
And they put it in my DM and I posted it, the owner of this fur coat store deleted the videos. He got a call mysteriously to delete immediately, but too late. Tasha K already had it, boo. Proof that they was together on Christmas. He was with his kids, his wives, Remy. He held the camera when Remy did her little video.
Not with answers, not with closure, but with an unsettling awareness. If footage keeps disappearing, if timelines refuse to align, if money shifts quietly behind the scenes and marriages never fully close their doors, then this story was never about what was said out loud. It was about what someone worked hard to make vanish. The receipts, the erased clips, the Christmas contradictions, all settling into place like puzzle pieces nobody asked for. One question refused to let go. Why does money keep surfacing in a story that's supposed to be about love? At first, it sneaks in quietly, a designer bag, a borrowed car, a change of address left unexplained, small details easy to overlook. But soon the narrative begins to lean not toward romance, but toward necessity. Feelings can be performed, but depth is relentless. This is where speculation collides with documents, figures, filings, and records that don't bend for fame or soften for sympathy. The public version of Papoose, secure, generous, financially grounded, didn't match the quiet truth sitting in official records. And that's where identity becomes the key. Not the name on albums, not the name on paperwork. Once that legal name entered the frame, the past snapped into focus. Years, not weeks, not a missed payment here or there, but decades of alleged financial neglect, tax responsibilities ignored, liens accumulating, notices compounding balances that don't vanish just because attention shifts elsewhere. And that's when motive creeps in. When someone carries financial pressure that trails them across cities, homes, and relationships, nothing stays casual. Every connection becomes calculated. Support stops being emotional, it turns operational. Suddenly, luxury spending no longer reads as celebration. Living arrangements no longer feel temporary, and the idea of a gift stops feeling generous, it becomes strategic. Meanwhile, another corner of the triangle bears its own gravity. Remy Ma, allegedly carrying more than $600,000 in tax debt, isn't on firm ground either. That number doesn't just sit on paper, it changes behavior, turns silence into coordination, and ties shared history into mutual risk. Money becomes the thread that keeps them aligned, even when affection fractures. Separation stops symbolizing freedom, it threatens collapse. And that's when the third point of the triangle emerges, not a lover, but a lifeline. Claressa Shields, publicly resilient, financially active, placed as emotional insulation, positioned as financial relief, close enough to absorb pressure without seeing the full weight above her. The language used to describe her role is brutal, a buffer, a lick, a cash source, not affection, but utility. Replayed through this lens, every earlier moment reshapes. The duffel bag stops being a gift, it becomes a presentation. The apartment stops being comfortable, it becomes a cover. The jewelry stops being romance, it becomes circulation. Even the silence around Christmas shifts meaning. It no longer feels coincidental, it feels controlled. While Claressa publicly claims she was alone, the allegation paints a different picture. Papoose somewhere else entirely, with family, with his wife, with a stability that was never officially dissolved. This isn't explosive betrayal, It's quieter, the kind that allows someone to plan a future while the present has already been decided. And then comes the moment when suspicion hardens into something heavier, not gossip, not intuition, but a statement rooted in records, not feelings.
So that's why we were 80 tails on Papoose and his financial records. And it took us a long time to get these. But when we got these and we saw that he currently owes and has not paid taxes for the past, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10.
Once that footage surfaces, the atmosphere shifts instantly. The audience isn't responding to rumor, they're reacting to magnitude. 13 years. That isn't negligence, that's evasion. And when evasion exists alongside luxury visuals and emotionally charged storytelling, two parallel realities emerge. One designed for public consumption, one built for survival. This is where the idea of a phantom deal begins circulating, not as an accusation, but as a rational conclusion. If money is promised but never delivered, if a deal exists in conversation but not in accounts, if reassurance alone keeps someone emotionally invested, the value isn't in the payout, it's in the delay. Delay buys time, time to outrun consequences, time to postpone scrutiny, time to keep everything unresolved. And that loops the story back to the divorce that never materialized, the non-action that raised quiet alarms. Formal separation would force examination, shared assets audited, obligations exposed, liabilities dragged into daylight. Remaining legally intact becomes the safest strategy. Within that strategy, Claressa's position becomes painfully visible, not as antagonist, but as collateral. Someone whose income stabilizes pressure points, whose visibility redirects attention, whose trust is leveraged without signatures. This isn't a love triangle, it's a compression triangle. And compression doesn't require affection, it only requires access. By the close of this chapter, the question hardens into something far more chilling. Was she ever supposed to know? Because when relationships are engineered around avoidance, transparency becomes a threat. And the silence around the marriage, the finances, the erased footage, all of it echoes the same intention. This part doesn't fade out with anger, it lands on recognition that the greatest risk in the story wasn't heartbreak, it was unseen. By the time the money trail became visible, the story had already passed the point where it could be walked back. This was no longer about screenshots, missing clips, or timelines that refused to align. It was about what prolonged silence can become when it stops feeling accidental. Here, silence wasn't emptiness, it was architecture. Up until this moment, every inconsistency still had an escape hatch. Contradictions could be brushed off as coincidence. Overlaps could be labeled confusion. Financial questions could be softened into business matters. But every story like this reaches a point where the quiet itself starts making noise. That point arrives when the roles are finally revealed, not on social media, not in court filings, but in private language, the words people use when they think no one else will hear them. The temperature drops because the claim isn't simply that Claressa was misinformed, it's that she was arranged. Arranged to believe she was selected, while the marriage she thought was over was never actually dismantled. Arranged to feel emotionally prioritized, while legally everything remained untouched. Arranged to keep giving her time, trust, and money to something never designed to become permanent. That's the line between heartbreak and engineering. Heartbreak happens when intentions fail. Engineering happens when intentions never include you. And this is why the language allegedly used behind closed doors matters more than any public-facing narrative. According to claims, Claressa wasn't viewed as a partner, she was treated as a utility, a cushion when pressure spiked, a cushion when finances tightened, a diversion when attention needed to shift. That's why the phrase that later surfaces lands with such force, not because it's sensational, but because it exposes mindset. You are the lick. Those words don't come from affection, they come from calculation. These words come from calculation. They reveal a framework where a person isn't seen as human, but as leverage. And when everything is revisited through that lens, the emotional timeline reorganizes itself. The Christmas statement about being alone stops reading like vulnerability and starts reading like awareness. While Claressa publicly said she spent that day by herself, the claim remains that Papoose was with his wife and child, exactly where the law still placed him. That isn't disorder, it's structure, a structure Claressa was never part of. This is the emotional center of the story, not the spectacle or the gossip, but the quiet realization that what she thought was a relationship was never one at all. It was access, and access can be revoked without warning. That's why the allegation surrounding the divorce becomes pivotal. Divorce doesn't just end relationships, it exposes finances, opens books, forces disclosures, and drags private systems into public scrutiny. According to the claims, that exposure never happened. The divorce stalled, then disappeared, and that single decision reframes everything. If separation would dismantle the financial scaffolding holding two people together, then remaining married becomes tactical, even without emotional closeness. Within that tactic, Claressa's position becomes heartbreaking, not because she lacked intelligence, but because she was denied information. The story exists celebrity spectacle and enters something far more uncomfortable, asking a question most people avoid. How many relationships exist to protect something else? Reputation, debt, stability, control, and how often is love merely the language used to disguise those motives? As this pressure mounts, the claims sharpen. The supposed $8 million deal was never intended to materialize. It functioned as reassurance, not income, designed to keep Claressa emotionally and financially engaged long enough for other liabilities to be managed quietly. If that's true, then the final reveal isn't about money at all. It's about intent. The moment someone realizes they were never meant to move from access into commitment, the entire illusion collapses. This is where the interview lands, not as spectacle, but as exposure.
The man, she's not divorcing him because you are the lick. He is going to help his wife to get out of debt using the money that you make from fighting. So in my opinion, he's giving you a fake $8 million deal, which is credit. It's there. But if you go win, you don't need it. There's no money in it.
After this clip, there's no going back to ambiguity. This isn't framed as jealousy. It isn't framed as bitterness. It's framed as a warning that Claressa may have been funding a structure designed to exclude her. A warning that the marriage she believed was over never actually ended. A warning that her silence had been convenient for people who benefit from it. And this is where the ending becomes unavoidable. Tasha K's conclusion isn't loud, it's final. She doesn't say the relationship ended, she says it never started. Because starting requires honesty, starting requires freedom, starting requires the absence of another legal commitment, and none of those conditions were present. So what remains is a choice, not for the audience, but for Claressa. Does she walk away and force the structure into daylight, or does she stay quiet and continue absorbing the cost of a system never built for her benefit? That's why the story no longer reads like gossip, it reads like a pattern. Powerful men, ambiguous relationships, women kept close but not included, money used to stabilize silence, and patterns don't disappear when you ignore them, they repeat. This part doesn't end with outrage, it ends with clarity, because once someone sees they were never part of the plan, the only real question left is how long they're willing to pay for believing otherwise. This is where the story stops being entertainment and starts feeling personal. Because if even half of what's been alleged is true, then this wasn't confusion, it wasn't miscommunication, it wasn't bad timing, it was designed, carefully paced, quietly managed, emotionally expensive. Claressa didn't lose a relationship, she lost clarity. She was allowed to believe in proximity while commitment stayed somewhere else, allowed to invest while the structure around her remained intact, untouched, allowed to stand in the spotlight while decisions were being made in rooms she was never invited into. That's not heartbreak, that's positioning. And the most dangerous part isn't the money, it's the silence. Because silence protects systems. Silence keeps debt hidden. Silence lets marriages stay legally intact while emotions are outsourced elsewhere. This is how people get used to it without ever being openly rejected. No breakup, no honesty, no clean ending, just distance disguised as affection. If you're watching this and thinking this could never happen to you, that's exactly why stories like this keep repeating. Because they don't start with lies, they start with access. They start with reassurance. They start with promises that sound real enough to delay questions, until one day the receipts surface, the videos disappear, the timelines collide, and the truth feels heavier than the lie ever did. So ask yourself this: if the relationship was real, why did it need so much silence to survive? If the intentions were pure, why does everything only make sense when you follow the money? This isn't about picking sides, it's about recognizing patterns, because patterns don't care who you are, they only care that you stay quiet long enough to benefit someone else, and once you see that, you can't unsee it. The question isn't what happens next in the story.